Hey, what's up? I'm back with another spiritual discussion. Today I'm going to be talking about my awakening journey or my spiritual awakening. Um this happened back in 2021, but I should start further back cuz there's a lot of lead up to it. So my questions first began when I was in church. I was real young when my questions first began because my cousin would always show me things about Michael Jackson and at the end of his videos he would put something at the end of his videos that would hint towards greater truths, and he would tell me about these things, especially when the one where he turned into a panther, because that was symbolic for a lot of things. And I remember always being so curious about the Illuminati and things like that. And my questions actually started to really happen in church, because I remember one day, the pastor, he was praying over people, and I didn't want to go up there, obviously, because I was having questions. I didn't really trust religion. So he my grandma makes me go up there, of course, because she used to make me get involved in church. So um I go up there, and then he looks into my eyes, and then he just goes like he just goes back a little bit for some reason, and then he puts his fingers over like right here, and then he starts praying like real hard. And then I remember hearing my grandma, she was like, he prayed real hard over Anthony. And I don't know why, like that always stuck with me. Like that moment in church was just so weird. Well, I questioned church ever since. I don't think I ever been back ever since that happened. But coming up in school, I always loved history, but I always did get a sense of maybe this isn't the real history, because I hear contradicting things outside of school. Um when I was around 17 years old, that's when I really started to be like, okay, I'm I'm don't know if I can go on doing school and being taught lies. So I went and looked up on YouTube um, all types of history, just in comparison to what I was learning at the time. So like the light stuff, the battles being fought with the Indians, well, Native Americans, um, that some wars that took place overseas, and I'm like, well, I don't think this is gonna really actually benefit me. So I wait a few years, and 2021 hits. No, I should back up. 2020 hits, and then I go in for another deep dive. But this time, I'm actually finding stuff. This time, I'm talking to my cousin, and we're talking about the Bible and stuff, because that's all we know at the time. We know things from the Bible, so we were always looking up like the Book of Enoch and stuff. The lesser known knowledge within the religious context. But I started to go outside of that, because I started to see things about signs, like Sagittarius, Aries, and all that. I started to see that, and I'm like, what does this stem from? What does this come from? Because I strongly believe that I'm a Sagittarius. A lot of these quotes actually match up with me, like just who I am as a person. And I started to look up spirituality on YouTube, and I started to see a lot of resonating videos, and I come across Lemuria. I came across Lemuria for the first time, and that made me ask so many questions, because I'm like, wait, if we used to be green, then what could be wrong with us now? Why aren't we green anymore? But that happened, and then I told my sister that I was curious about spirituality, and she already had her spiritual awakening, but I wasn't aware that I was going through mine currently at the time. So she takes me to the store and gives me an amethyst. That's like the beginner crystal. For anyone who doesn't know that, if you're just getting into spirituality, get yourself an amethyst, and occasionally put that on your third eye. Yeah, that's the stuff. But she took me to get my crystal, and I remember as we were walking back, the crystal falls out of the bag. But the weird thing is, it fell through the bag, but there was no hole in the bag. That was the first weird thing that happened. And I remember like having this sort of sensation, like that was abnormal. Like That was weird. I don't know how it came out of the bag. There's no hole in the back, and I double bagged it. So I secure it, put it in the bag, and when I get home, I remember like I'm like, you know what? I know meditation is one of the things that people do. I'm gonna try to incorporate that now. I'm gonna try to see what that does for me. And I remember in this point in my life, I was so depressed because I was looking for the truth and I wasn't finding anything. Because I was like, man, I have to live on Earth for at least 80 more years, and I'm gonna be struggling all those 80 years. I don't want to live anymore. Like I've never been suicidal, but like I started to have thoughts like, man, I don't know if I can do this. Like I don't know if I can carry on with life. So I take out my amethyst, put it on, and I go into meditation. And then uh, I remember always hearing, try to silence your thoughts. So that's what I was doing, and I started to get a rush of emotions. Like, man, if this doesn't work, I don't know what else I'm gonna do. But that's, and I started to cry real hard. But then I stopped, and then I opened my eyes, and for some reason, I felt so much lighter. I felt so much lighter, and I stood up, and I remember like feeling my body because I was like, huh? Why do I feel like this? And then I went into the mirror and I looked at my eyes, and my eyes were like wide open because I remember for weeks my eyes were a little bit low because I was in the dark night of the soul. I was trying to find truth. You know how that goes. If you've been through your spiritual awakening. But my eyes were so low. But then when I looked in the mirror, my eyes were wide open, like I just had new life in me. And I remember this is a very strange sensation. I looked at some of the things in my room, and I had no like personal attachment to it, like it wasn't mine anymore. And I was like, wait. And I remember hearing like my mind was like, "Where's the forest at? Like, why? Where am I at?" It's like my mind defaulted to a human's natural environment. Like that's how much of an ego death I had. So I kind of had to work my way up with understanding my reality again, but through this new lens that I had. And I remember that's when I heard it. I heard for the very first time uh my higher self. And my higher self told me this specifically. It says everything, hold on, let me remember the exact words. It said everything that you were perceiving is real, everything that they're receiving is false. No, it was like, no, sorry. It said everything that you are perceiving was true, everything that they're seeing is false. So my interpretation of that was all of the truth I was seeing and all the presumptions I was making about it within my head as I was seeing it was true, because I was like having so many. I was having third eye thoughts. Third eye thoughts would be like you look in between stuff and really see deeply. And I was like, wait, so everything I was seeing was was true and perceiving was true. So they're looking at the false information. So I'm like, oh, that changes a lot, because now I feel like I'm onto something, because I know that wasn't it was my voice, obviously, because it was my higher self, but it wasn't my voice. I wouldn't tell myself that. I wouldn't tell myself that. That was my higher self coming in and letting me know like I'm on the right knowledge. And I remember feeling this intense feeling after that of my body just feeling so warm. And I was like, wait, is this love? Because, I struggled with love and understanding the concept of it for a very long time because of how I was raised and my interactions, in relationships and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait, so this is what love is really supposed to feel like. And it's not coming from somebody else. I was like, wow, you can actually achieve this on your own. I'm like, why isn't anybody else doing this? Why aren't we meditating especially as, the colored race? Why aren't we meditating? Because everybody is out there being rambunctious, cheating, lying, stealing, killing. they wouldn't have to do any of this if they would just sit with themselves and meditate. And these were the thoughts I was having. And then I remember my Akashic records began to open up. And I remember I had a past life as a philosopher. And I was able to speak like a philosopher too. I don't know how, that's exactly go like how I would describe that, but if a Greek philosopher spoke English, you know how they would sound. They would sound like ha ha, that type of thing. And I remember laughing and like feeling so good. Like I was opening my Akashic records and I was embodying these personalities that I had from my past lives. And um but things started to take a little bit of a turn because when you first awaken, you become sort of like a beacon. And this is what I didn't know. I didn't know that you become a beacon for negative energies once you have your spiritual awakening. So I began to notice that the day and night cycles began to speed up really fast. Um, the day and night cycles began to speed up really fast. When I went to go to McDonald's, I remember looking at the gas station across the street, and those cars with like that they use for funerals where they put the casket in the back. A really really tall person with a trench coat and a hat was pumping gas into one of those, and I couldn't see their face. It was like a dark shadow, like you couldn't see their facial features, and they were just watching me like this, like as I was pulling off, and as I was going, I had my sister with me. Car started to swerve like this, like try to like hit my car, but they couldn't quite do it because I think I was under some sort of spiritual protection. And my sister was like, why are they moving like that? And I was like, I don't know. They were swerving all crazy in front of me. And during this time, I didn't want to eat any meat because you already know, like when you have your spiritual awakening, you go to that stage where you don't want anything but fruits and vegetables. And everybody around me was thinking I was weird for this, and I feel like it was a spiritual attack by them using things around me, not necessarily letting me know what's going on by doing too much. So I'm just chilling. I'm just cooling, and nobody thinks I'm acting normal, but I am. I'm just going through a spiritual awakening. So they take me to the hospital to evaluate me, and as I'm sitting and waiting, I'm hearing hissing. I hear hissing, and then like ching ching ching, like metal claws, like on the top of the ceiling. They have those like foam ceiling things like in the hospitals. I was hearing ching ching ching, and I was just like, wait, I've heard about this. Is that a could that be a reptilian? And then I'm just hearing for it, and I'm like, I'm quite convinced, but I don't know if I'm just like tripping because now they got me thinking like something's wrong with me, and that's what they'll do too. They'll admit you into places thinking something's wrong with you. But I know I wasn't tripping because somebody next to me was looking around and he was like, "Dude, do you hear that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I hear that, but just don't pay attention to it." Because I knew what it was, but I didn't want to tell him what it was because he probably would have freaked out. And they evaluate me. I'm okay. They take me out. They let me go back home. That's when everything started to die down, and pretty much ever since I've been on the journey. Especially, man, I love the forbidden history. The Atlantis and Moria stuff. I just went home and started studying that, and I became so knowledgeable about Atlantis, Lemuria, and our ancient past, and how our genetics got messed up, and how we're no longer able to do the spiritual things that we can do. Because I remember when I was seeing diagrams of, ancient yogic texts of the human body and the chakras, I'm like, wait, I have some memory of this. I feel like I used to study this like a long time ago. And I just know like we aren't functioning how we should. And that became confirmed to me when in 2024 I found the law of one inner Christos text. Well, not the text, but the law of one inner Christos teachings, which basically describes how we got into this mess with the fallen angels taking over Atlantis, destroying Lemuria, and us being on a smaller part of that planet and not being able to function how a 12 strand angelic human is supposed to function. But I've been on it ever since. There's not one day where I don't think about spirituality because I feel like it saved me from a lot of what I could have ended up going down had I not found the truth. And I feel like that's true for a lot of people. They just may not speak about it, but we were you don't get to this level by not going through that depressive state. You go through that depressive state. It's just a matter of how bad is it for you as an individual. And I think it was starting to get really bad for me because I just couldn't anymore. And I started to give away all my stuff. I started to give away my money to my sister. I just didn't care. I was like, fuck it. Like, I, I nothing here is going to make me happy. So you might as well have all my stuff. Like, that's where I was at. But Source saved me. Source saw me. Well, I think it was probably in my contract that I would wake up at that time. But I had a feeling that Source saved me. Like, the universe came in at a time when I was really low and showed me that the truth. But yeah, that's my awakening story. Kind of summed up. A lot of other things happened, but that was the most important events during my spiritual awakening. But yeah, more another video tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Um, I hope that I'm gonna be able to tell this story when I have more people watching. I'll retell the story when I have more people watching in a more descriptive manner. But these videos are just gonna be short for now until I'm able to learn how to edit or get an editor, and then I'm gonna be making all types of things. I want to make I see all types of spiritual things in gaming, especially Elden Ring, where I can point out a lot of things that are in religious things, spirituality, ancient symbols that you can see, ancient concepts that are in all types of video games, and I wanna make videos pointing that out. I think that would be fun. But yeah, let me know what you want to see. I think I might do tarot readings too once I learn how to do it. But I'll have to look at the guidebook. Once I'm good enough about knowing what cards are what, I think I'm gonna start making tarot videos too. That'd be fun. But yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.